Welcome to the Noonday Meditation with Wayne Vernon.
Yesterday we met John Mark, who was one of the first missionary partners or companions of the Apostle Paul. And today we meet another amazing co-worker of the Apostle Paul, another partner in ministry, Silas. Now, Silas became a ministry partner with the Apostle Paul at a very awkward time in ministry. Paul and Barnabas, or Barnabas and Paul, were originally ministry partners, and they had drafted John with them. Now, Silas is drafted to be a ministry partner with Paul after a controversy with Barnabas. You see, according to Acts chapter 15, Paul and Barnabas wanted to go visit the churches that they had ministered to in their first missionary journey. And Barnabas wanted to have Mark, his cousin, rejoin them after he had deserted them in Pamphylia. There was a sharp disagreement with them, and so they switched partners, as it were. Barnabas took Mark, and Paul took Silas and went with him on his missionary journey. But who is this guy called Silas? And what kind of contribution did he make to the ministry? The story of Silas is very, very interesting. He enters the stage suddenly and he exits suddenly. However, he is to be applauded for much contribution in Christian ministry. According to Acts chapter 15 and the verse 22, he was a very significant leader in the Jerusalem church, along with Barnabas and Mark, who was significant in that church too. He and Paul, Barnabas and Paul were sent as representatives to Jerusalem to discuss the issue of the inclusion of the Gentile believers in the church. And Barsabbas, or Judas, and Silas, who were prominent leaders in the church, were sent with them with the letter to welcome and incorporate the Gentile believers into the church. When they were selecting two leaders, they said, we need two men who were leaders among us to be sent. And they sent them off with the letter to confirm their decision. Acts 16 verse 32 tells us that Silas was a prophet. He was a prophet, and along with Judas, he went around and encouraged and strengthened the brothers in Antioch and spent some time with them, and then he returned home. We notice that when Paul needed a ministry partner, he asked for Silas to return to become his ministry partner. And Silas's contribution to the ministry is not very conspicuous. However, this man's life is a testament to gifted and prominent leaders who support another without being rebellious, reluctant, resistant, or reticent. If we talk a little bit about Silas, we will recognize that this man was with Paul and was engaged in extensive traveling, doing ministry, and establishing Christian groups in various areas. He was beaten and imprisoned in Philippi along with Paul. He and Paul sang their way to deliverance by an earthquake that severed the chains that secured them in a Philippian jail. He was there when the jailer and his family were converted. This same man escaped being beaten in Thessalonica. Because of trouble in Berea, Paul went to Athens, and Silas remained there to teach the believers, the new believers there. And then he rejoined Paul in Corinth. Here he disappears from this story. However, like John, he is mentioned in Peter's ministry again. In fact, he is mentioned by Peter as the co-author of 1 Peter. He served as a writing secretary or an amanuensis for Paul as well. Silas's life and ministry challenges us that we may not be the most prominent of Christian leaders, but we can serve alongside others to advance the kingdom of God by using our gifts, our talents, our abilities, and our influence for His glory. Despite the challenges he experienced in ministry, he did not quit. He served even after much opposition and suffering. His life is a testament to the fact that partnership is a very significant part of effective Christian ministry. My brothers and sisters, he is mentioned in 2 Corinthians 1:19, and as Paul spoke of him, that he was a partner with him. He's mentioned again in 1 Thessalonians 1 and 2 Thessalonians 1. And Peter speaks of him in 1 Peter chapter 5 and the verse 12. With the help of Silas, whom I regard as a faithful brother. He is considered a faithful brother. I have written to you briefly, he says. My brothers and sisters, let us remember that partnership in Christian ministry is a very, very significant thing. Never you think that you're playing second fiddle, but understand that your partnership is absolutely significant. May the grace of God be with you. Amen.
Thank you for listening to the Noonday Meditation with Pastor Wayne Vernon. Please forward this study to your friends, your relatives, associates, neighbors, and all those persons in your social network. If you have a prayer request, please feel free to communicate with us, and we will commit to supporting you in prayer. Until we meet again tomorrow, Shalom.